Welcome to the ANEW Body Insight Podcast, empowering and inspiring your journey to optimal health. Hosted by Dr. Supatra Tovar, clinical psychologist, registered dietitian, fitness expert, and author of Deprogrammed Diet Culture. Rethink your relationship with food, heal your mind, and live a diet-free life. And Chantal Donnelly, physical therapist and author of Settled, How to Find Calm in a Stress-Inducing World. We follow our guests' journey to optimal health, providing you with the keys to unlock your own wellness path. Tune in and evolve with us. Hello and welcome to the ANEW Body Insight Podcast. I am Dr. Supatra Tovar.
And I am Chantal Donnelly.
We are super excited to have plant-based chef Alexander Gershberg with us today. Welcome, Alexander.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
I know that it's very late in the Netherlands for you, so we're very grateful that you, decided not to sleep and come on our podcast. So thank you so much.
It's 1 a.m. I had to keep myself awake. I'm a bit sleepy, so I hope I will not say too many crazy things.
Well, we kind of hope you might say something a little crazy just for fun. I'm going to read a little bit about Alexander, and then we're going to get right into our questions. Alexander Gershberg is a chef, cooking teacher, and cookbook author. Since 2011, his mission has been to inspire the world to eat more healthily and for healthy food to be more sexy. And I agree. Let's make food sexy again. His first cookbook, Vegan for Friends, was published in Dutch in May of 2017. His second cookbook, Energy, also in Dutch, was published in November of 2019 and named Best Vegan Cookbook of the Year in Netherlands. His third book, Plant-Based, was published in Dutch and English, Dutch in January of 22 and English in January of 2023. Alexander has developed a unique cooking style inspired by his native culture, together with a healthy approach to cooking and nutrition. His dishes are colorful, original, they vary, and he uses all sorts of different colors, flavors, ingredients, and cooking techniques. The result is always intriguing, surprising, and it's very feel good, nourishing, very delicious. The ingredients Alexander uses are 100% vegan and organic, preferring locally grown vegetables and whole foods rather than processed and commercially refined foods. I agree wholeheartedly. Alexander believes that by eating this way, people will be happier, healthier, and live more in harmony with other people and their environment. I agree as well. Alexander is based in Amsterdam, the Netherlands, and is traveling worldwide for private events, cooking classes, and performance dinners, which we are very interested in finding out a lot more about that. Welcome, Alexander.
Thank you. Nice to be here again.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us at this crazy hour for you. So you are in Amsterdam right now. You live in Amsterdam. Yeah. Can you tell us, were you born in Amsterdam? Where do you come from, and how did you land in the Netherlands?
No, I've been living here for 18 years now. Time goes quick. I was originally born in Russia to Jewish parents, secular Jewish. When I was 5 years old, we moved to Israel, and that's where I grew up. And when I was about 22, I moved to Amsterdam.
Wonderful. What brought you to Amsterdam in particular?
So I used to be, before I was a chef, I used to be a dancer. And I followed a bachelor's degree in Amsterdam. I got accepted as a student here. So I came here for studies, and things turned in a way that I stayed here all these years. Yeah.
Yes.
I like it.
It's interesting because we have a Netherlands dance theme happening in our podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We had a guest of ours who happens to be a friend of both Supatra's and mine, Fiona Loomis, and she was a classical ballet dancer in the Netherlands, but she's originally from the UK, so she landed there for dance as well.
Oh, wow. Great. Amazing.
Yeah, it's a wonderful place for dance.
dance and movement and food and health, I think it goes really together. So for me, it's like very integral parts of my life. Yeah. Of being healthy, of moving, these kind of things. Yeah.
So while you were a dancer, from what I remember, I met you earlier on the Midlife Whisperers podcast. You were saying that you had a health scare, and
Yeah.
that's what helped to transform the way you eat and the way you live. I would love to hear that story.
Yeah, so when I was a dancer, that's been a while ago. I had a skin sickness that I couldn't cure with the help of conventional medicine. So I turned into macrobiotics. Macrobiotics is like a traditional way of eating and healing based on Chinese traditional medicine and looking at foods with the energies of yin and yang. And I started with macrobiotics. It's mainly plant-based, but not exclusively plant-based. And the skin sickness went within 1 week. And I just started to feel much better. I started to be more energized. As a dancer, I became more flexible. I started to have more strength in my dancing. I started to get also more compliments from my colleagues, like, "Hey, you dance better, you look better, you're in a better mood, you're a nicer person." So yeah, that's how I started to eat in this way. And once I personally had this discovery, I wanted to transmit it to other people. I don't know if transmit is the right word.
It's good enough.
Transmit it to other people, yeah, kind of like in a good way contaminate them with this virus that because it's like, I was enthusiastic, so I wanted to give it the knowledge further to people, to be inspired to do it, yet to teach people about it, to tell people about it, so they can also experience the positive effects I experienced. Yeah.
Wow, really great. That transition happened for you really fast. Within 1 week, you were feeling all of these different things. It's quite remarkable. What inspired you from there to become a chef?
I think until I started to eat in this way, I was eating vegetarian, but then kind of like junk food vegetarian, with a lot of processed foods and sugar and
Yeah.
dairy.
That was my vegetarian in my 20s.
Yeah, we've all been there. And I remember being a vegetarian, I tried to convince a lot of people from the ethical point of view. And I saw that talking with people and kind of like in a preachy way kind of pushes them away from what I actually tried to achieve. And I thought perhaps with this new discovery, I should try a different way, and by cooking good food. And I started to invite a lot of friends for dinner. I've been living in the Netherlands already back then, and the food culture in the Netherlands is a little bit poor. I don't know if I should say it so much.
No, say it.
It's true.
How is it poor?
It's quite poor. It's just there's not a great culinary tradition here. The local religion background is a Protestant religion, and Calvinism the Calvinism stream in the Protestant Christianity thinks you should live life very modestly without too much enjoyment and indulgence. So that also reflects in the food. It's quite modest and simple, yeah, to put it that way. So I come from very culinary cultures. I grew up in the Middle East. There's so much from Arabic food and so much of the Jewish diaspora that brought so many cooking cultures. I was used to very rich food, very exciting food. So I miss this kind of food. And at the same time, I also started to eat like 90%, 99% plant-based. So that put my options very limited. So I started to explore cooking, and I invited friends, and I wanted to inspire them to try good food, which also happened to be vegan. Yeah, by the way, it was vegan.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm.
You
Don't
asked
tell
me-
anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on over for dinner,
Yeah. Sometimes I still do it. Like sometimes some clients invite me because they heard from other people, it's good and they like it. And in the end of the meal, I tell them like, but did you realize there was no meat in it and no, there's like, oh, right, that was vegan. Wow, we didn't expect it.
Yes.
So how did I turn to be a chef? I think the first step is that I started to invite friends for dinners, and then that turned into a pop-up. At a certain point, there were like too many friends to just make it like a friend. But like I was doing it with another dancer who was a friend. We realized we need to charge like 10 euros or like $10 or something like this. And that was the first pop-up. And from the first pop-up, people started to ask me to come and cook for them privately at their home. Some people asked me to cook for their birthday. And then when I started this, I thought, hey, wait a minute, it was so hard to make a living as a dancer. I had to take side jobs. And I thought, wait a minute, I'm being asked for jobs, like, in the show business, it never happens. You're not asked to beg for a job.
Yes.
And so I thought like, wow, that's a good profession, and I'm doing something that I love. And I had a mission. I wanted to inspire people to eat in a different way, to feel better, to be more healthy. And I still feel I have this mission. I've been doing it for 13 years. And I wake up every morning and I think, oh, I still want people to discover this. Yeah, I think that's why I keep on going after 13 years. I never thought I will do this for 13 years. That's way too long.
It's wonderful. And you had written 2 very popular cookbooks. Granted, they're only in Dutch. Sadly, we cannot read them unless we read Dutch. But you then went on to write plant-based. So what about plant-based? What was the inspiration for that? And how does it differ from the previous cookbooks that you wrote? And what are the key messages that you want to convey with this cookbook to your readers?
Yeah. So just to say, so people have a picture in their mind, that's my 3rd cookbook, plant-based. It's in English and Dutch, indeed.
Thank you for finally coming to get a book in English.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it took a while until many people ask, when is the English coming? When is the English coming? And now it's finally there. Sorry, I dropped something. So what was the question? Now I lost.
That's okay. It's late. I know. You should be sleeping.
Gosh.
What inspired you to write this cookbook, and how does it differ from the others? Like, what message do you want to give with this particular cookbook?
Yeah. So the book is divided into 8 chapters, which are the main food groups in the plant-based cuisine. So it's whole grains, beans, 3 types of vegetables, seaweed, ferments, and fruits. And it was very important for me. I started to eat in this way 16 years ago. Back then, it was like a weirdo kind of thing to do. Then I think around 10 years ago, 7, 8 years ago, vegan became very popular. But I saw that what becomes very mainstream in this vegan way of eating is the meat replacements industry.
Yes.
And I saw that many people that started to go this way dropped eating plant-based very quickly. Because it was not sustainable for their body, for their health. It's usually the meat replacements are ultra-processed products. So I wanted to show people how to eat in a plant-based way, which is more sustainable. So I wanted for them to be familiar with these 8 food groups, especially with whole grains and beans or legumes, because I see that not so many people are familiar with it, how to cook it, how to eat it. In order for people to get all the nutrients that their body needs from a plant-based diet, and also to make this diet satisfying and filling for them. So I think that was very important for me to, and the big chapters in the book are whole grains and beans. By the way, just for people who are not familiar with the plant-based cuisine, the combination between whole grains and beans give the full protein to the body. So if you want to eat plant-based, you need to eat whole grains and beans every day. Like there's no way to escape it. And if you don't want to eat plant-based, but you still want to eat a healthy, good diet, still whole grains and beans are a very good addition to your diet. So I think definitely emphasizing these two food groups and the other food groups like vegetables and seaweeds and ferments inspired me to write this book. I wanted to make it accessible, tasty, attractive, and something that people can be proud to serve to their guests or friends.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think just to, piggyback on the protein issue, I think that there's a lot of misinformation that's given to the consumer about the type of protein they need and how much they need. For example, for somebody who's my age and my height, and really you can actually do this yourself, you really only need about the width and the depth of your palm per day as protein. Many people, especially in America, and I think it's because meat and agriculture, big agriculture, is subsidized by the government, they get a lot of messaging that you have to have, meat or any kind of animal product in every single meal and in large proportions. No. And I just want to put this out there that no, you don't. And you need, really what is the size and the width of your palm only in a day. And that, I think, blows a lot of people's minds because of the conditioning that they have experienced when it comes to protein. Now, granted, you do need a little bit extra as you grow older if you're a performance athlete, for sure, but it's not that much more. And certainly you can get all of the benefits of protein, what protein provides you, from plants without a lot of the harmful things that you get from animal protein, which is a lot of saturated fat. Plant protein has fiber, it has vitamins, it has minerals, and aside from some B vitamins in animal protein, you don't get those things. Yep. And so I think there's a lot of misconceptions. That's the number one thing that I hear the most when it comes to a plant-based diet is, how am I going to get my protein? And you do get that from beans, legumes, soy. And yes, you do need a combination of those things, but actually newer research is also showing you don't have to have them together necessarily in every single meal. You just have to have them throughout your week generally, and you will get everything that you need, besides the fact that you may need to supplement with B12, sometimes with vitamin D unless you're in a sunny place like Los Angeles like us, and a vegan form of DHA and EPA, which is usually like an algae-based DHA. So I just wanted to...
Yeah, sorry, Supatra. There's definitely a lot of messaging out there for menopausal women, me being one. I'm getting that messaging that we need more protein because of the loss of muscle mass. So I don't know how either of you feel about that messaging, but that's definitely something that I'm hearing repetitively is I need more protein, because I'm losing so much muscle mass.
It is true. Like I said, older individuals, like for, kind of the average person, it's 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight, which is usually around 3 ounces. I always kind of think of things in ounces because that's just the way that we think of things. And so for somebody who's in menopause, it might be 1.2 to 1.5. So it's kind of maybe like double that. But when you think of that, that's really like maybe 5 grams. and that, or 5 ounces, sorry. And that's not that much. Here's the thing that is the most disturbing thing about the protein messaging, especially from animal sources, is that people think, oh, I'll just pee it out. No, you don't. You can. It is excreted through your urine, but the remaining protein, especially if you eat a lot of it, is stored as fat.
I'm not peeing out my extra cow. Is that what you're telling me?
You're peeing out some of your extra cow, but not all of it. And the rest is being converted to fat for whatever your body doesn't use. So it's not good messaging, what we're seeing, especially for women in menopause. Sorry to hijack that, Alexander, but
No,
I think it's really important.
I think it's a really interesting point. So basically what you're saying, the myth that you're debunking, that we don't need as much protein as we are being brainwashed for over a century. We need actually far less than what we think.
Right. We actually need far more carbohydrates than we do need protein. But we do need protein. We need it, but not that much.
Yeah, I read this great book by Dr. Colin Campbell, who wrote the China study. He has a book called The Whole, I think.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good one.
Second book. And he talks about how in the food industry, or the research that belongs to the food industry, that the food industry subsidizes, they like to isolate one ingredient and to overrate it, like vitamin C or vitamin this or vitamin that. And he says, like, in an apple or in any whole food, there's like hundreds or even thousands of micronutrients that interact with each other. And it's about their interaction and how they support each other in our digestion, which is far more important than this one single nutrient that we are being obsessed about in our food culture or the supplement culture. So that's why I'm really a huge fan of whole foods. Of taking an apple or taking a broccoli or taking brown rice or taking beans, because it's like the food itself is a multivitamin. I have a cabbage next to me. This is a multivitamin.
Yes.
There's so much in it which the research world or the scientific world will never be able to create. This has been created over millions of years by nature, or God. So, yeah.
A beautiful specimen. We just, in our culture, we like to just pop it in a pill, right? But if you can make it taste good, I will eat it. And that's why I want your cookbook, the English version, please. I'm going to get that at the store as soon as possible, because I definitely want to incorporate more vegetables and fruit and legumes and into my diet for sure. And I love that you have developed a really unique cooking style that really blends your native culture with a healthy approach to cooking. I think that's really important, because it brings out the passion that you clearly have for your cooking and creating your recipes and your cookbooks. Can you tell us a little bit more about that style and the influence behind it?
So I think the main cooking cultures that inspired me. So I think when I started to cook the macrobiotic food or the healthy plant-based, whole foods plant-based diet, I thought that the recipes that I found in books or that I tasted here and there and around were not very exciting. It was a little bit boring or a little bit gray or unsatisfying. So I thought, wait a minute, the principles of this diet is whole grains, beans, and vegetables, and many other food groups. But these are the basis of many traditional diets. Like the Indian diet is based on rice and lentils, and the Japanese diet is based on rice and azuki beans or soya beans. And in Mexico, you have corn and kidney beans. And wherever you go in the world, you see that the traditional diets are actually based on whole grains, beans, and vegetables. So I said, there are so many wonderful recipes, traditional recipes in the world. Let's take these recipes and try to kind of give them, to introduce them again to people and to show them you don't need to use meat replacements or to try to imitate things let's just use the traditional knowledge which already exists there. Everyone loves Indian food, Thai food, Middle Eastern food. So because I grew up in the Middle East, it was definitely my way to go. I'm a big fan of the Middle Eastern diet, so I took a lot of its principles and I tried to put them in a more modern, contemporary way. I'm also a fan of the Japanese diet. Since I was a child, we used to go to sushi restaurants and try to make sushi before it was a trend. And the macrobiotic diet is very much influenced by the Japanese diet. It comes from Japan, actually. So when you learn macrobiotics, you learn a lot about the traditional Japanese ingredients. So I think naturally these two influences, the Middle Eastern diet or the Israel where I'm coming from, the contemporary Israeli cuisine, and the Japanese diet, they influence me very much. So these are still my favorite cuisines and what I'm specialized in, I would say.
Wow. And, I follow you on the Instagram and I see a lot of the creations that you make, and they are all varied from very different cultures. I love that you combine all of those, or you experiment in a lot of different cultures. And you're right. When you look at the blue zones, all the areas where they have the highest levels of people living over 100, they all have that in common. Beans or legumes and grains and vegetables. It's the core part of their diet. And I think one of the main reasons why they live so long. We are definitely going to pick your brain about this some more. We're out of time for this half of this interview. So I will give it over to my friend Chantal over here.
Thank you, all of our listeners, for joining us. Please tune in next week where we get to the second half of our lovely conversation here with Chef Alexander Gershberg. We're excited to have you back next week. Thank you all.
Thanks for tuning into the ANEW Body Insight Podcast. Please remember, the content shared on this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. You can find us anywhere podcasts are streaming, on YouTube at my.anew.insight and at anew-insight.com under the ANEW Body Insight Podcast tab. Follow us on our socials at my.anew.insight on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more updates. Tune in next time and evolve with us.